Thank you for staying with TVC News comprehensive coverage of the 2024 Edo State governorship election. I am Precious Amayo, and I have my colleague with me as well.
Precious Ibrahim Chita. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm sure that people of Edo State are, right now apprehensive and waiting for what's going to be the outcome. But just before we get into all of that, we're a few hours into the keenly contested governorship election with 18 candidates hoping to take the seat of power. Now, more than 2.2 million registered voters picked up their PVCs in the 192 wards spread across 3 senatorial districts and are expected to conclude the voting exercise in about 2 hours, barring any last-minute extension by INEC. Now, so far, the election has been largely peaceful, with voters defying the rain to cast their ballot. Before the commencement of the election, the police arrested 2 persons suspected to be political thugs at Gbogbo quarters in Igara, Akoko Edo, in Edo State. Now, in a statement by Force PRO ACP Olumuyiwa Dejobi, police operatives recovered 3 cut-to-size locally fabricated pistols and 1 locally made gun. The police emphasized that it is working to ensure safety of voters and a smooth exercise. I will bring you live updates from across Edo State from our correspondents and reporters who are in various local governments to monitor the situation. But we still have with us an analyst and a public affairs analyst, Victor Hyde, to talk more just about the exercise and how things are going in Edo State. When you look at the 2020 and the 2024 election, I know that you have monitored elections in Edo State since 2016, even way beyond that, rather. But when you look at how things, let's even start from 2016, 2020, and now 2024, have you seen similar patterns in terms of, voter turnout, security, and just the general outlook of that election as it is ongoing now?
Okay, so in previous elections, it would usually be a 2-horse race. And so the tensions tended to be more. It would then be like, obviously, 2 major parties, APC and what do you call it now?
We cannot state the names of political parties.
I'm sorry, yeah. Okay, so you would see, you see that, 2 parties are struggling. This time, it's a 3-horse race, and it's too close to call. Even the one you might consider a dark horse might just bring surprises. So all of them, I think the security forces this time have risen up to the occasion by making sure that they do a show of power to dissuade any form of violence and thuggery. And a deft move that they made was disabling the, what do you call it now, the...
State vigilante?
Yes, state vigilantes, yes. So that has helped to a very large extent, because they're in possession of arms, and they are the ones that, usually they're the foot soldiers for this violence. And then when you see, armed gangs against each other, one, it creates voter apathy because people are not sure how it's going to be, so they sit at home. But you can see there's a larger turnout this time. I mean, even if the TV is not showing it, you can see a lot of people are determined to vote in their candidate.
But, and I know Ibrahim wants to come, but when you look at this, it was the same thing in 2020 when, there was this uproar about how the election was going to be, filled with violence and how there was going to be thuggery and all of that. And it didn't turn out, exactly that way. I was saying the same thing, the election is not over. We've not gotten all of the reports yet. But so far, there have been reports, of people who have been arrested, but that's just one case. And so when you look at that, the disparity between the heightened, narrative of violence pre-election, and then when you look at the election, it's less. What do you think, happened in between?
Usually, people heat up the system. That's what you say. Everybody's like, look, you want to intimidate your opponent, and so unfortunately, sometimes it affects voters because when the polity is heated, people don't want to come out. You don't want to be a victim of where 2 elephants fight. You don't want to be the grass in that case. So that happens, and so you find that there is more perceived violence than actual violence. It's not saying there won't be any violence, there might not be any violence, but as I said earlier today, it's too early to say that everything is going to be peaceful. When the results start coming in, then you begin to see the reactions and the color of people, because a lot of people are already heavily invested in this, emotionally, financially, and so many have a lot at stake. And so that's when their true characters will begin to show. But I expect that the security forces will be alive to their duties and make sure that whatever it is curtailed early. But, you know, right now, everywhere it seems quiet because nobody knows which way.
Yeah, talking about security
Just a minute,
right.
Ibrahim. Let's bring in, we have another guest joining us via Zoom. He's the Executive Director of Operation Nigeria, Izinwa Owangu. Good to have you join us. All right, Ibrahim, go ahead.
Do we have him?
Yes, we do.
Mr. Izinwa, thank you so much for joining us. We just started off about talking about how the pattern of the ADO election in previous elections vis-a-vis the ongoing election. What has been your observation so far?
We'll come back to him. I understand that, you know, connection, he can't hear us also, but go ahead.
Most definitely. So I was going to say, because basically you mentioned the security agencies and the police precisely, but if you look at what has been happening in the heating of the polity, we had, you know, some people who were already planning to foment, you know, violence and all of that. You know, while she was reading the introduction to this, you know, segment, we saw 2 people who were arrested, you know, having ammunitions and all of that. Do you not feel that the police has actually, you know, proven itself to be up to the task?
I mean, they're always up to the task if they want to be and when they want to be. So that's never in doubt, you know. And remember, this is an off-cycle election. So they can afford to bring as many policemen as possible. So to that extent, yes, they have. And it's still a mind game. I was listening to the first PRO. I mean, sorry, not first PRO. Fourth PRO. DIG.
Right.
Frank Uba, you know, promising fire and brimstone on whoever attempts to. So that is also important because while the politicians are on the one hand, you know, promising that all hell will be let loose, the police is matching them equally, rhetoric for rhetoric, and telling them, look, if you bring one, we'll give you 1,000. And so everyone should just, if we're to use street language, everyone should maintain. You know, so everyone is chilling.
All right, permit me just to put you on hold.
Yeah.
We need to get information from, you know, more updates from Edo State. Our reporter is standing by there, Sarah Yeku, to bring us updates. Sarah, tell us where you are and give us update from there.
So I'm still in Esseco West local government, and this is Ward 11, Unit 005, Zoara West. And we understand that since the commencement of voting, that's at about 8:30, these persons have not been able to vote. So I'm talking about close to 1,000, about 900 voters are registered in this particular unit. And the reason that was given is the fact that the BVAS machine was not working as at the time. So just about 5-7 minutes ago, the BVAS started working. And so before we didn't see any INEC official at that point. They just came in now, and we understand that accreditation and voting has commenced. And incidentally, this is the polling unit of Mr. Philip Shaibu, and I'm going to bring him on now just so he can give us a sense of what these people that have stayed since morning, since as early as 8 a.m. this morning, they've been here waiting to see when INEC officials will resume and be at the polling units. And so when they got here, then the BVAS started malfunctioning. So I'll bring in Mr. Philip Shaibu just to give us a sense and help us understand what what he also has been going through. He has not voted yet, and this is about 12:38. So, sir, what have you been going through since morning, and what's the situation like?
You know, as somebody that I've gone through torture and intimidation and harassment from a Godwin Obaseki. You should expect...
Sorry, sir, no name calling. I just wanted to stick with the issues, and let's just get this across.
Somebody that I've gone through torture and intimidation and is still standing. You should know that by now I'm so experienced to the extent that no pressure no pressure, intimidation, or something close can affect me. Look at, I'm happy that our people are actually aware now. Consciousness is high. Since morning, I think only 2 or 3 persons voted before the beavers developed fault. And they took it, they came back, and they left again. It was not, they came back, it was not working, they left. And the people were like, what is happening? I spoke to them, I said, calm down. You know, this technology at times can have issues. And we waited. We waited patiently to the extent that I had to get this canopy and chairs for them to sit and wait. And why I was confident is that all other units, there's no problem. So that means it could be technology error, and which is expected. And they came just now to tell us it's working. And you can see, this is, everybody is still intact. So I'm happy that somehow I was thinking sabotage, but with what is happening now, that small thought of sabotage is gone. But we are pleaded with INEC, in line with their rules also, that they should check the time that we are starting, and they should also add that time for us to be able to vote. Because for all of us have to vote. We are here, so we must all vote. And for us to patiently wait shows that we want to actually vote and want to exercise our right to vote.
So you believe this is not a sabotage? Do you still have confidence in the electoral umpire?
Yes, with what has happened now, I don't think the small iota of doubt that I had is erased completely. And I pray that as we start, it does not malfunction again. I pray it doesn't malfunction again. So I'm confident and I'm hopeful that with this consistent technological advancement, we will get there one day to the extent that you don't even need to come to polling unit to vote. You can vote from the comfort of your home, and even diaspora can vote. So technology is one thing I will continue to support and appreciate.
All right, I think my final question for you is, talk to us about what you've heard so far from the other local governments. I know that you have ears on ground to ensure that the election is peaceful, credible, fair for your candidate, even for the opposition also. But talk to us, what have you been hearing? What's your assessment of this election so far?
Yes, one thing I've heard is that it's calm and peaceful. I've heard that. Those small pockets, but not as widespread that we thought would happen because of the kind of news that we've been hearing about violence, burning Nigeria, burning Edo State. And we are thankful that here in Jetu, it's peaceful, it's calm, and even the weather is very, very calm. So maybe the weather also influenced the serenity that we have had here. You can see the people. Look at the crowd waiting till about 12:30 to wait for the beavers, and nobody is going home. It shows the consciousness of our people is now high. And I think it's good for democracy, because democracy is about the people. Democracy is about the people choosing their leaders. And when the leaders do well, they give them any time they want. If they don't do well, they still have the chance to use their voters' card to vote them out. So I am confident that we'll continue to support democracy. And democracy is one government, no matter how, it's still the best form of government. And I can tell you that what I've seen here today, the level of patience that I've seen here today, all of us leaders, we have to sit up because the people are now conscious of their rights.
Thank you so much, sir. Precious, you just heard it. So if you take a look at what he's trying to say about the people that have been here since 8 a.m., ensuring that they cast their ballot and vote for a candidate of their choice, these are the people that have been waiting. If you take a look at the voting point, it's crowded, and just a few people that do not have access to that point yet are seated under this canopy and just waiting to choose their preferred candidate. Precious.
And Sarah, we've heard from the reinstated deputy governor talking about the consciousness of the people. But when you speak to the people, what are they saying and what's their mood?
You know, when we got here initially, they didn't want us to use the cameras because they just didn't want us to peddle fake news, which is one of the things that have characterized this particular election. Fake news just days before election, particularly on the eve of the election. There were a lot of fake news about some candidate pulling out of the race, about some sort of stories, you know. People are peddling stories around. And so when we got here initially, they didn't want us to use our cameras because they were not sure of our intentions. But after they got that confidence, which is why we can use the camera now, they got that confidence, they knew that we were not here to sabotage the process, we were just here to do our jobs as journalists. And that's what you've seen. And you see the people just standing around and just waiting patiently. And most of them, even though they are hungry, because they've been waiting for hours now, even though they are hungry, they're still here. There are people around selling small stuff, a bit of soft drinks that they can have and just chill and wait for this election time. We just hope that INEC would issue a statement on time to extend the time of this election.
And then, based on what the incumbent governor incumbent deputy governor mentioned, saying that the people are actually waiting patiently, have you actually confirmed from them whether truly the reason why they are waiting is because they really want to exercise their franchise, or some of them are just there to, monitor the process of the election?
Apart from the party agents that are around, right, which is just like a fraction, a tiny fraction of the people that you see here, and apart from the party supporters, of course the party supporters are voting, they need to vote for their candidates. So apart from that tiny fraction of party agents or journalists, election observers, we've not really seen a lot around here. It was in the previous polling units that we've seen some election observers, EFCC officials also. The people that you see here are here for the election. You see them taking a seat and sitting and watching, waiting. As you can see the queue, right? Initially, right, we didn't have a lot of people around that voting area. We didn't have a lot of people around the voting area. What we had was just that people were lined up. You had the male on one line, you had the female on the other line. But you see now that the lines have been blurred. The lines are now blurry. People are trying to search for their names, and then vote for the candidates of their choice. So, accreditation and voting is ongoing at the same time. So people that are here to vote. They are not observers. They're not election observers. If they're election observers, they will have the tag of an election observer. They are here to vote for the candidates of their choice. And so the number that you see is expected because just in this polling unit alone, I think about 900 registered voters are at this polling unit. While the number of PVCs collected, we do not know yet because it's not stated on the list that we have there. But on that list, what we have is registered voters, about 900 of them are on that list. And that's why you see this number of people just in this polling unit. If you go to another polling unit where voting, we do not have a lot of voters there, that's the case of the other. But this particular polling unit, which is 005, that's where you have this number of registered voters there.
All right, Sarah, thank you for that update. I'm sure we'll get back to you to get more updates on the situation there. Our reporter live for us in Asako West local government area in Edo State. She's been talking about the situation there. That's Ward Unit 005, Ward 11 in Asako West local government area. She said from the report we're getting, the Beavers machine has had to be replaced twice because they were not working. Voting started 20 minutes ago now, because she said 5 minutes ago when we started speaking with her, so about 20 minutes ago now. Coincidentally, that's also the polling unit of the reinstated Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, who also spoke about the process and how conscious the people are and ready to vote. All right, let's bring in our guest on Zoom, Gabriel Wambo, who, will be he's also an election observer. He's observed a lot of elections in Nigeria. Will also be telling us, his thoughts on this process. Good to have you join us.
Good to have you too. Thank you so much, and good day.
So let me start with, we'll come back to the conversation Ibrahim was having with you, Mr. Victor Ohai, but talk to us about your observation with this election and some of the things that have just been noted. Unit 005, Ward 11 in Edo State, and that's Asako West local government, where the Beavers machine has had to be replaced twice. Tie all of this into the preparedness of INEC for this election.
Thank you so much. You see, the Independent National Electoral Commission has made a lot of arrangements. And part of the arrangement is a contingency plan, to ensure that there is enough backup of PVCs, for every ward. And there are technicians, there are engineers on ground, to replace them within the shortest possible time. So these contingencies have been made, and I believe that with enough manpower that is also available, we do not expect to see much malfunctions of the beavers. So far, over 90% of the areas that are supposed to, elections are supposed to be holding is ongoing right now. So I think it's a very good development. The INEC is prepared, and the INEC has demonstrated being responsive and responsible to the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerian citizens so far.
But if you look at Mr. Wambo, if you look at what you said, look at it from 8 a.m. to up until now, that's more than 4 hours ago. And then you're talking about INEC's preparedness vis-a-vis the technicians that are there to ensure that the beavers functions very well. This beavers is definitely going to be used, is being used for accreditation and then transmitting results. At the end of the day, how do you think this might impact the outcome of the elections in the case where they are not able to transmit, especially from the rural areas in Edo State?
No, nobody said they are not able to be transmitted or results will not be transmitted. If what is happening is just in Isako, a fraction in Jatu, just a fraction of, just less than a fraction of the entire percentage of elections being conducted in the 18 local government areas of Edo State. That is not enough to say that elections are not moving smoothly. It's just a tiny part of the election processes, the election venue that is not being working as expected. However, we believe that everything is all right now and there is enough manpower. And so far, INEC has not proved not to be responsive. INEC has immediately gone back and returned with new beavers machines, and the elections are on. So far, everything is stable now.
Mr. Wambu, if I may come in here, because you used the word immediately, I'm staying on the point that Ibrahim raised, which you also said that INEC has immediately, because it's not immediately, it's been since 8 a.m., they've had to do that twice. If it was just once, one would say, okay, maybe, it was an error. But this is twice now that the beavers has had to be changed. And it's been since 8 a.m. And if you do that calculation, it means that it took INEC about 4 hours or more to replace, or 2 hours or more to replace one beavers. And then another 2 hours or more to replace another beavers. How tight will you then say that contingency plan is that INEC made?
Well, you just heard this in Jatu area of Edo State, and it is not synonymous everywhere. My take on it is that although it is a technology, technologies might not be 100%, effective, but so far it is not so bad. We do not want to hit up unnecessary situations that.
All right, looks like connection there with the Wambu is we've lost that connection. But let's bring the conversation to you to react to what is going on in Unit 005, Ward 11, where Philip Shaibu is also voting. Twice the beavers has had to be replaced. This is the third time. Hopefully people can vote now. But how do you read that situation?
Well, it can create a bit of tension, as the newly reinstated Deputy Governor stated himself that he thought there was foul play, but his confidence has been restored. Now, I expect INEC to be responsive, and that's what gives confidence to the process. So it failed once, it failed the second time, but this time around they got it. So I think, because that's the hope of everyone right now, that the beavers would be able to give a fair representation of what has happened. And it will enable us to know who and who were there, who and who voted. So a case of voting or ballot snatching, would not come up. So I expect them to be as responsive as that. And I remember in an earlier broadcast, someone talked about INEC technicians being around, so which means that they have people who are on the standby ready to make repairs or fix things. So to that extent, I think it's a good one. I didn't expect it to be 100%. In fact, I'm surprised that this is the only one. But again, we're talking to a high-profile person, so we know because there are cameras there. There may be so many others that we don't know about, but we'll have to wait and see, if that's what's happening. But the fact that they can be responsive and they will deal with the issue is very positive.
There is one thing for the machines to be, to malfunction. It's another thing for the people who are handling these machines to be able to utilize them very well. How do you think the Independent National Electoral Commission has tried to, train, especially the ad hoc, staff members that are co-opted into this election?
I think they have adequate training. I don't think anybody has ever accused any of their staff of not knowing what to do. Certainly not with the beavers or the processors. So they do adequate training. So what is usually lacking sometimes is public awareness. Sensitizing the public about the due processes and what they must do, what they should do after voting. They try. Some NGOs also help and support in that area. So, but once you know what your civic responsibilities are, and INEC does what it has to do, I think we're home and dry. So I'm pleased that so far there's been okay. Because if you begin to see malfunctioning beavers along the line, that already puts a question of credibility or integrity in the process. People will begin to insinuate all sorts of things. So INEC's quick response in this case has been positive, and I hope it's the same across borders. So
there's an improvement in that regard. But I understand that we have Mr. Wamu back in the conversation. I want us to touch on some of the things that, I don't know if you were listening to Philip Shaibu when he was speaking with our correspondent in Edo State. He said some things. In fact, she had to caution him while he was speaking. And we've also heard some of the candidates and key figures in this election speak. What do you make of the rhetoric so far and the impact it could have on the process?
What rhetorics are you talking about, please?
We've had some of the key figures speaking. Some have complained about what's going on in their ward. Some have said, or in the polling unit, some have given some level of credit to INEC and security.